Hello, Carrie Miller. Welcome to the hot seat.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks, Dee Ann.
So it's fun to talk to you today because you get to work in the area of our firm that really is quite joyful, and that's working with clients on their philanthropic interest. And as you know, a number of our clients really feel strongly about their commitment to their communities. And so I'd love to hear you talk about how you came to be so interested in working in philanthropy, and then what you think your role means for our clients.
This is a bit of a dream job for me, really. My experience in philanthropy started when I was a little girl and selling Girl Scout cookies and filling dime cards for the March of Dimes. And my grandmother really nurtured a lot of that activity for me and was always one of the first people to donate. And my dad would take me around the neighborhood, asking all of our neighbors. And I think that family piece of things had a really big part of what I think philanthropy is for me personally, and what I think it is for a lot of donors that I've worked with and clients. I think family is one of those things that either good experiences or bad experiences have a lot to do with how you look at giving back to the community that you live in. And when I talk to donors about what would be meaningful to them to support, it usually does start with early memories or early stories about things, and whether somebody helped them along the way or they were able to help someone else in that time. And so what I love about my role and what Heritage really has done a very special job to encourage is thinking about those values and thinking about family and why you do what you do and how you want to help the community that you're in. I'm really happy to be here, and I think that philanthropy is a really wonderful thing that has been nurtured in America, and I'm proud of kind of bringing that here to Heritage too in a bigger way.
Thanks. And you know what I love about your response to my questions, and that is that you didn't start by saying people save taxes when they're philanthropic. And I think thinking about how people structure philanthropy from a financial aspect, I mean, clearly a good advisor can think about the impact on things like income taxes, estate taxes, cash flow. But you went to the heart of something much more important with your answer, and I love that, and that's why you're here. Because really, once you get beyond the technicalities of how to give, it really becomes about whether or not you're having impact and your gift is making a difference. So I wonder if you could speak to how you view that.
Yeah, so I think that can be very personal too. You know, I've talked to several donors who, and clients of yours too, who are of ours, who want to know, well, how do you know if a charity is good? How do you know if they can really get it right? And I think that's a tough answer. And there's a reason that it's not straightforward. But I think that goes back to the number one reason that you're giving has to be personal, and it has to be because it's important to you. It can't be for tax reasons or because your colleague or partner at the firm asks you to make a gift. Loyalty makes people give to their alma maters and to their alumni groups and different things, but it's not what's going to get to the passion of why you're giving. In the world where so many people are asking you to give and there's so many different wonderful causes, you do have to ask those tough questions of what are your metrics and what are your outcomes? How will you measure success? And I think that's something that can be hard for donors to ask a nonprofit, but they are measuring success. And so it's okay to ask those questions. But I also think that's something I can do for clients here is ask on behalf of them so that nobody, feels uncomfortable or anything like that. Because if a nonprofit's not measuring outcomes, then they should be.
So I wonder if you could speak to your background and how you have worked in philanthropy in the development space for so long. I had it shown to me very quickly the value of your experience. We were recently in a meeting and we were talking about some of these values, clearly with somebody who cares a lot about the community around them. And you were able to move the conversation along with a very important question about why not get some of this in writing. And I thought to myself as I sat there, I've been advising on philanthropy for so long, but the fact that you know what it feels like to be that development officer, it just really hit home to me the value of your experience. So would you talk about your experience and then, or maybe something else that you think of that people might not be aware of that they should be thinking about?
Yeah, so the last 19 years I have spent fundraising, and in a lot of ways people would say to me, I can't believe you're able to ask people for that much money. In a lot of ways I wasn't. It was really about, well, what would you like to accomplish with your philanthropy that would be meaningful to you? And then here's how we get there. And we would sort of dream along the way. So there would be an inflection point where there needed to be a question of, can we do this? This is how many resources it would take. Sort of backing up to your other part of your question in documenting things, that's so important, because the other thing that I have gotten to do is work at universities that are very old. And so at the end of the day, the only thing that really drives the way that your gift might be used 50 years later is either a gift agreement or a purpose statement of some kind. And people do go back and look at those, because what if what you want to solve is something that's already been cured? Like, at some point, your gift hopefully cures the thing that you maybe wanted to do. So then what if it's an endowment? And that's where they go back to the original purpose statement and try to understand the intent in which it was given. And so I think that that's why it's important not just to have the conversations with your families or with development officers, but also to put things in writing that are really important to you.
As one of my clients told me long ago, the shortest pencil is better than the longest memory. So, and I was thinking of that when we were in that meeting. You know, it was really fun for you and I to meet face to face I think it was the first time. And as I was interviewing you and hoping that you would come and join us, I was kind of like, oh, I was asking Carrie a lot of really hard questions with one of the physicians she worked with in the room. And she hasn't really brought that up. But then when you were here for about a week, you mentioned that it had come up when you were leaving. You know what I love about it is I love that you knew the spirit in which we were being professionals together. And since you've been here, like, I feel the spirit like getting even stronger, which is just a beautiful thing. But I wonder if you could just take a moment and maybe talk about when you left that world and you're coming into this one, some of the things that you just thought about joining the team that's not asking for the money, but helping the clients, give it away.
Yes. And I am over here laughing because I did see where you were coming from. And we did walk out of that meeting, and the physician I was with was, wow, those are really hard questions, Carrie. Like, gosh. And I was like, yeah, but they were really good questions. And I walked away really admiring the work you've done with your clients, Dee Ann, to be good stewards of money. There's a naive thought, perhaps, that, well, wouldn't that be nice to have that much money to give away or something? Oh, must be nice. It's easy to say that statement. But oh my goodness, it's also hard, because there are so many worthwhile causes. But much like you worry about the next generation or grandchildren, how much is too much, or how do I make sure that I'm instilling these values with the wealth? I think it's tough. And so there's a huge responsibility to be a good steward of funds and how you want to help the community that you're in.
Okay, I think that's a good segue into my last question, which is the fact that when you think about the world today, it would be easy to get down, but it's also nice to be able to look at people like our clients who are really drawn toward making a difference in their communities. I'm curious if you've given thought to how philanthropy might change in the future. Problems will always be here. It'd be naive to think they aren't. But do you see things that are changing now that might be relevant for us to consider with our clients?
There is going to be a large transfer of wealth, and it could be really overwhelming all at once. And so, what is the future of philanthropy? Well, I don't know that we know. I don't think that it's online fundraising sort of models. I think they had their heyday of, you know, all these like GoFundMe's and things like that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not sure what's next. I think AI is you know, making it harder to know, was this written by an individual or written by a computer, this solicitation asking me to give in this way. I think those are going to get more and more custom. And so at that point, the job of a development officer is going to be more and more important. There's going to be so much noise that is very customized that it's going to get even more important to know, what do I really, as a donor, what do I really, really care about? And work with a development officer to, do you have anything like this at your organization? It's also going to be important to trust people in nonprofits and have sort of more open conversations than maybe we have in the past about, you know, I'm wondering, how much is it going to take to solve this big idea or something like that? And who are you partnering with? There needs to be more collaboration with nonprofits. Nonprofits are going to need to band together. And I think we need to be thinking about the big ideas. What are we trying to solve, and what are the creative ways to get there? And it's, how can we use AI and computers and large data to help us solve these problems too? So it just keeps coming back to values and trust, and working with people that you trust too at the organizations.
I do think something you said that really appeals to me is the thought that if you can help with collaboration, if we or our clients could become a source of collaboration, that could be a wonderful thing for a community, because information sharing typically always, you know, can lead to people being able to do bigger and better things. And so maybe we can noodle on that a little bit in the coming weeks about what that could look like across some of the challenges in our community.
Yeah.
All right.
I'm excited about that.
Well, it's great to have time with you today.
Thanks, Dee Ann. I'm excited to be here.